Hello, hi, welcome to today's session. Um, and welcome back to the Cloud Force Academy. I am Rain, and today's we're going to dive into one of the most exciting features of the Spring 25 release. That's the record trigger approval flow orchestration. And if you have been ever struggled with the old approval process, and this new feature is a game changer. It's more flexible and and powerful and free to use kind of tool, and making it ideal for a business that will need to advance into like a multi-step approval without custom code. So entirely you achieve without code. And another advantage of this approval flow is the orchestration is free. Unlike if you are aware of the orchestration that when you exceed 600 runs in a year, you Salesforce will start to charge you some dollars, but this is entirely free. And so in this video, I'm going to guide you into a step-by-step way of creating this orchestration. And we're going to take a very simple solution. Let's say you are interested in submitting your a high deal, maybe opportunities for approvals. And so let's say imagine a SaaS team is working on a deal worth, let's say, $10 million, and you need to ensure proper oversight before moving forward within the process. So with this new flow base that we're going to look at orchestration, we can automate the entire workflow from triggering to the handling the approvals and updating records. These are things that we're going to do. So if you stay at the end of this video, what you're going to be getting is you will know exactly how to set up this feature and to streamline your approval process. So let it get it done. Okay. So just what I'm gonna show you here, so is to show you how it works out. So we're gonna run in on opportunity, like I've said earlier, and the entry condition is when the record is created or updated, and the amount is greater than 100K, then it will enter into the automation flow, and this will go into the approval processes, and then we update record. So take for example, let's go into this record. As you can see this record here, if I click on details, so there are quite a few things you note here. If you notice things that we're going to note here, we have something approval work items that will appear here. So any item that have been submitted for approval and the login user is the approver, they'll all appear here. And then we have something called the approval status and then the approval comment. So all of these ones are going to just like a custom fields that we created, and these are going to be used, and we're going to update this. Whatever the approval gave, then it's going to be approved. So let's take a look at this. So this is 125. I'm just going to go ahead and uh, update this and just going to save it because it's greater than 100K already. So we're expecting to trigger. So our flow will trigger. I click save. Now, what I want you to note here is that when I refresh, you notice something will appear here, okay? So if I refresh, um, you will notice one thing is that the record has been created. That's the item. And then another thing here is this work guide appear here. All right. So this work guide is a flow. Okay. And it's the actually the one of the flow under the orchestration. Is one of the steps. So you can see it has this component called approval status. You can either say approved. I have approved this record. Go ahead normally, or something like that, and then click finish. So when I click finish, you will notice that this work guide will disappear from here, right? It's gone, and the work has been completed. And if I refresh, I'm expected to see that and expecting this to be updated and this to be updated. So if I click refresh, okay, so you will notice that it has been updated to approval status, and whatever I type in there as the approval will be appear here. And you will see that the work item will update to say it has been approved, and the approver is that myself, and then it was assigned to me, approved, and that this is the comment. And then another thing to note here, you can see that we have a tax was created, and it's a approval status approved. So all of this, and this is the tax, all of this is what you can set it up, and we will go ahead and create this and to see how it's done. So few things to note. So I'm just going to go into another org here. So I have an org here. So few things to note here. I've gone to the opportunity object. Okay. I've gone to opportunity object. I created two fields, as you can see here, approval. So I created two fields here, approval comment and approval status. And this is a pick list, and this is a long text area. And I've added it to the page layout. So if I go on to here and just say sales, I will go to sales. You will notice that if I open on any of the opportunity, so this is a different org, and I open on this opportunity, you will notice that we have the fields there. So if I go to opportunities, I'll go to all opportunities, and then I'll open up like this one. You notice we have two fields here, approval status, and then the approval comment. And then we have the approval work item here. So I will show you how to add this, okay? So if it's not there, what you can do is you click on edit the page, and then you will say, going to say work. Yeah, you just type work. We have a flow orchestration work guide. You just pull it here, already have it. And then we have approval work item. So if you search for approval work trace, it's called work trace. Just drag it and drop it here. I have it. So the work trace is what will give you this approval work item. And then the work guide will be there. Okay. Then you click and you save it, and then you back. Okay. So this setup is completed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to create the flow that will achieve that for us. So first thing is, I'm just gonna close that. We're going to go to the back end setup, and we're just gonna bring out the flows. So I'll call it flows. Go to flows, and then we're going to like click create new flow. And right here, you see that we're going to start flow from scratch, and we're just gonna go next and select the flow type. So we're going to go into and select the one that says record triggered approval orchestration flow. And this is the one that we're going to use, this type of flow. You'll click create, and this will open up where we start to create the flow. So we'll select the object that this approval is going to be on. In our case, it's going to be on opportunity. And we say when record is created or updated, then this will fire. And then we want to create the entry criteria. And we're going to have one entry criteria. We want to see when the amount on the opportunity field is equals to, or let's say it's greater than or equal to what, maybe 10 million, or just say 100K. Let's go with 100,000. 1, 2, 3. So if it's greater than 100K, then it will enter this flow. All right. So what we're going to do here is to go ahead and start to configure our flow. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it, and I'll just call it approval process. I'll just say orchestration. I just add orchestration. Orchestration flow. Maybe just two. Just to share the name. So now, our flow we can start to configure. So as you can see here, we have two components that we can use, and the elements. So we can start to add elements, and you can see we only have two: stage and decision. Okay. So what you can do is you can say, okay, when this record starts, do I want to start with a decision, or I'll just want to go ahead and start to create step? So I'll go with step. So let's say my first step is going to go into what we call, let's say a manager is the one that approves first. We have we call manager approval, right? Manager approval, you can like step. Now you can see that this step has so many this stage has so many steps that we can add. So when you are on a step, on a stage, you can add several steps that you can go through. And one of it is select when to complete this stage. And this stage it says when all the steps, that is, you have like 2 or 3 or 10 steps, when all of them are completed, that's when this stage will be saying that it has been completed. All right. As soon as there's a step that's still hanging, then it will not be completed. All right. So this is the power of the orchestration. So it goes through the multiple steps. When it's finished, then the stage is the stage is completed, and then you go to the next stage. So now let's say when all are marks completed. So we're gonna go ahead and create our 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 steps, okay? So you can see under the steps, we have two stuff here. One is the approval step. So add that flow, it says approval step, add the steps that allow a person in an approval chain to approve or reject a record. So this will help you to configure the approver on whoever that will approve the record. And then we have another step here. It's called a background. So this is a background step that adds the step that the system completes. Let's say you want to update a record or you want to do other stuff after the approval has been approved, then you can use this one. As you can see, is kind of like a flow one. So if we go with the first step, let's say the first step, we're going to call it manager input, okay? And this is a step that the manager will give his input. And then you can see here, it says when to start this step. So if you have other step before this, you could say if step A or B are completed, and then this step. But in our case, this is just the first step. We're just going to say when the stage start this, then this step will start automatically. Since it's our first step, we're just going to leave it like that. So the most interesting part is this one, the action. So the action is to select what will happen at this step. So in our case, we're going to control this action by another flow. And this flow is going to be like maybe a sub-screen flow, and it can clearly say something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for a flow. So I have a flow here that Salesforce, it's a template flow that has been created. I just call approval workflow evaluation approval request. So this flow is already set up if you in your org. So you can, I'm just using it, but it's a very simple flow. I'm just gonna show you. If I click this, it's going to open that same flow. And within this flow, you will notice some few things here. You notice that it's a screen flow, and then it has this component. And within this component, we're displaying the approval decision and then the approval comment. These are the two things that we are displaying, and we're capturing that in a variable that we're going to use in our orchestration flow. So if I go into the resources, you'll notice that we have two variables: the approval decision, which will capture the decision. As you can see here, it's capturing the decision, whatever the user enter into this variable. And then we have the comment, the same thing, whatever he enters as a comment, this is the default value. And you can see it's available for output. So it's going to capture that, and then it will transfer it into our orchestration flow, and then it take it from there. So this is a simple one. If you want something to display other things, maybe you want to display the information about the record and all of that stuff, you can add it at this stage, okay? So if you want to modify it, you can save as, so that this one will be, Salesforce will not allow you to edit this, but you can save as, and then you can continue to edit. So back to our flow, so we can continue. Who is the approver? So you can select the approver at this stage. You can either use a user or a user resource, or a group, or queues or queue resources. So you can create a resources and pull some group of users if there will be a group of users that will need to approve that. So you can do that. But we're just going to go with a user, and then if you need more than one user, then you can put them in a group or a queue, and then you can configure that. We're gonna go with one user. So I have only one user in an org. I will look for that, and then that's the user. And you can see here, customize approval email. You can do that. You can put some heading and the body of the email. Or if you have the email template, you can use that. But at this stage, you can configure that, and the approver will receive email. Okay, we're just gonna skip that for now, and then select the record select the record to approve. So which record do you want to approve? So you need to specify. In our case, we're going to use the opportunity, and that opportunity is the record that's triggering this flow. So I'll just go with the ID. So if I go with the opportunity ID, and you can either lock this record. So select this to lock the approval when the step starts to allow the specified approver to edit the record when it is locked. Select allowed approval. So we want, if you can say, okay, we want to lock this record, but we will allow the approver to edit the record, or we can uncheck this. It means we lock the record, but the approver will not be able to change anything on the record. Or you can entirely just do not lock the record. So let's leave it that. And then another step here is select when to complete the step. So we are at this step now, the approval step. So we want, how do you want to complete the step? You can see there are quite options here. When assigned user has completed the action, then this step is completed. Or you could say when the specified requirements are met. So for example, you could say if some kind of requirements are met, you can define them. And then this is when this step will be completed. Or you can make it a bit complex and use a flow. And so you can use like kind of evaluation flow. As you can see here, it's orchestrated. Then it's going to return true or false. So when you return true, then this will be completed. If not true, then it's not completed. So you can define when to complete this step. Okay, just similar to how it's complete a stage. That's how this is working. So we're saying when all the steps, when the assigner completed the action, then the step is marked complete. Let's go with that. And we're done with this step. You can go ahead and save it. Okay. So now it's gonna show some warning here. The warning is saying that the user that is gonna run this is saying that the automated process user has no valid email because it's an automated user that's gonna run the flow. And then it says you can package registration that contains the step with agreed user or queue. That's fine. This is not gonna stop us from moving on. So what you're gonna do here is to add another step. So this will send the record to the approver it's going to send the record to approver to approved, and we want to do some things. We want to create a task. We want to update some records. So we're going to add that step here, and we're going to call it background step. And let's just call it like update record, right? Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is select when to start the step. You see, because it's a second step in this stage, we can say when another step is marked completed, right? That's what we want. You could have multiple steps here. So you will need to define which of the steps. So this is the power of the orchestration. So if I click here, it's going to ask me of which step name, all right? I can just say manager input. If I had multiple steps, all of them will be listed here. So I'll select which one when it's completed, and then this step will run, right? So this is it. So at this stage now, it says select an action. You see, we will need to use a flow as well to do this action. So I'll go ahead and click here. And because we haven't created the flow, we will need to go and create the flow and then come back as a subflow and attach it here. Okay, let's go ahead and create some flow. I'm just going to go in here and I'll click new. And we're going to create this flow. And this flow is going to be like an auto launch flow. Okay, so I'll go ahead and go into the auto launch flow, no trigger. This is the flow I'm just going to go with because we don't need a trigger. We just need an auto launch flow. So now what we're going to do is we will do some few things here. Okay. First of all, we will need to update a record and we need to know that particular record. Okay. So this record that we need to do, we need to get the record ID. Okay. So we're going to create some few resources before we continue. So we're going to go with variable. I'll just call it record ID. And we'll just say text and available for input and output. Okay. Available for input and output. And what do we want it to be? We just leave it. We don't need any default value. We're just gonna save it. And then we will do some few things here. Okay. We will need another we're gonna need to create because we're gonna need the approval comments and then the approval status. Okay. So let's create the approval status and approval comment as our variables. So I'll just click here. I'll just go on and I'll just call it approval decision. So whatever the user enter as a decision, then I'm just going to make it as approval as a variable for input and output. So whatever the approver enters a decision, either approve, reject. So this will capture it. And then we're going to create for another variable and we're just going to call it approval comments. Yes, we're going to call it approval comments. So this to capture the comments, right? You remember, I'm just getting this from, I'll show you we're just going to be text and available for input. So we're just creating the same here. Okay, let me see if that flow is still open. Yeah. So these are the variables that I'm just creating, approval comments and approval status, because we'll capture this from the previous step into that step, and then we're going to use it to create a record. Okay. So that's what we're doing. So now, okay, I'm just going to pull this here so that it will be step by step. Pull it here actually. So we have this flow, and then we're going to do this flow. Okay. So now that we have those variables, I think we can start to add our component. So we're gonna have like kind of a decision. I'll add a decision here. And this decision will help us to check whether it's approved or not. Is approved. Okay. If it is approved, then that's a decision. Then the label here is gonna be approved. Or we can just say yes, approved. Or we just use approved. Okay. And then we can add another rejected. Okay. So approved, how do we know it's approved? Is when that variable that we have here, a decision, is equals to approve. Okay. I'll check this approve and make sure that it's the same spelling with what is here, right? You can see here we have the choice set. Yeah, we have the approved, and it's just gonna be like that. That's the value, approve. Okay, the choice set here is approve, and that is what is gonna return here as a proof. Okay, and then I have another one on this one that is called a reject, and it's just that. That's the thing. So when a user click reject here or approved, so that is what's gonna return. So this is for the approved. So I'll go to reject. I want the approval decision to be equals to that value. Okay, reject now. Let me go back here. I needed to grab, I wanted this, yeah, I just want to be the exact approval choice. Reject source, so it's just reject. Yeah, that's you can just type it there. Okay, so it's just reject. Okay, now this is it. So if the variable, that variable is rejected, then it will go this way. If it's up, if go this way, if it's approved, it goes this way. So now let's configure it. Let me save the flow before we lose it. So I'm just gonna say update opportunity after approval. Okay, something like that. I will save it. Now we're just gonna add something here. What do we want to do? First of all, we will want to update a field, right? First of all, we will want to update a field. So we're just gonna add update here. Update. Okay. So I will just add it. I will just say update field. Approved. Okay. And then I'll specify here manually. I'll just say opportunity. And what are we updating? We're just gonna say what is the condition when the ID, okay, the ID, the opportunity ID is equals to the record ID, okay, right? Because we have this variable called record ID. Wow, is that how I put it? It's not the correct way to do it. I should have did it. Can I change the name? Yeah, just want to put that. Okay. I think it shouldn't more anyway. Um, record ID. Then we're just gonna do something here. We're just gonna update the fields. Two fields that we'll update is we're going to put approval status. It's going to be approved. And then we have the approval comment is going to be the variable approval comment. Whatever that is in that variable should just update that field. That's it, okay? We're done with this configuration. We can go ahead and create a tax if you want. So we can just say create record and just say create tax, okay? And the object here is gonna be just one. We're just gonna be tax. Okay, sorry. We're just gonna do it manually. We're just gonna put tax. Okay. And we're just gonna set some of the fields here. Okay. First of all, we're just gonna set the subject. Okay. We just be like, what do we want it to be? So approval status, maybe approved. Okay. And then we're gonna add maybe assign to running, maybe let's say running user, assign to running user ID. Okay. And then whoever there's a running user, then we can do things like description. Description, we can just say record opportunity approved. Approved. Okay. Whatever that you want it to be a description. We can add more things like related to ID. Or we can go to related to, and then I'll just say related to the record ID, right? This particular record that to get the record. And I think we can just leave it there. Okay. So this will update and this will create our tags. So we're just gonna just copy this here and just put it there. Paste, copy this and paste here. So when it's rejected as well, all what I'm doing here, when it's rejected, it will create, well, I did this now. Instead of approved here, I would just say it would be rejected. Okay. And that's just it. Rejected. Yeah, that's all. That's all we need to do here. Here, we can just change the subject, maybe to be called rejected. Okay, cool. So we finish. This is our flow. And all we just saying here is that when the um when it enters, it's gonna check whether it is approved or not based on the variable. If it is, create a record update and create a record update, and that's all. So I'm just gonna save this and possibly I'll just activate it. And what we're going to do now is to go back to our flow here. I think there are quite a variable. So we'll go back to our registration flow and we're gonna create another variables for the record ID as well. So just the same way we did it in that place. So I'm just gonna call it I'll just call it record ID, and I'll just text and available for input and output. Maybe I'll just put the default value to be record triggering this and the ID. I'll just go with the opportunity ID, and then I'll click done. And then we need another variable. Do we need another variable? Let me see. I'm not sure if we need it. So let me just create a variable here. And the same variables we just created here, right? It's just these variables. I'm just gonna just create it, opportunity. I'm not sure we need it, but let me just do this. Available for input and output. I'll click done, and then I'll just create the other one, which is the decision. I'm not sure we need it here, but just text so that if we need it for anything, we can easily call it. Just gonna be text available for input and output done. So now I will save this. So I'll check this flow, make sure that it is activated, this update record, and I'll get the name. Okay, this is the name of the flow. And then I'll come back to the orchestration. I'll refresh. Okay. And after refreshing this flow, I will go ahead and do something quickly. Now we'll go back to the stage that we were configuring. So right here, and I will just search for that flow. As you can see, it's here. And this is it. So you can see it's asking for the variables. Which variables are we going to use in that flow? Because we have variables that are available for input. And it's saying approval comment. So we want to get the approval comment from the first step, okay? That the approval enters. So we're going to go into this step. This is the stage. We're still in the same stage, right? I'll go into the stage, then go into the manager input step. That's where we're getting it from. And then we're going to get the output and the approval comment variable. You can see the approval comment. And we're just going to do the same thing with this decision. We're going into this, and we're going into the output, and then we're going to decision. And then the record ID, of course, is just going to be, you can either use record ID or just be record triggering. And then I'll just go with the opportunity ID. Just go with ID and the opportunity ID. So it will pass this ID, pass this particular ID into this flow, and whatever the approval comment that comes from this step is going to pass into the flow, and it's going to use it to update our record, and it's going to use it to create our new record as well. So all we need to do here is the user type is automated process user, and that's it. So we have finished configuring our first step, and we can click save, and you can go ahead and activate this. And so it's going to give some warnings. That's fine. So if we have finished with this step, we can just activate the flow, right? So now what we're going to do is we go to the front end and test our flow. So this is the org that I'm here. You can see here, there's nothing. If I refresh here, there's nothing that's happening. So we're just going to test it with our condition. Entry condition is 100K. So if I go to detail and edit this, it's already 120K. So if I leave it there or just to change it, so just maybe 3, and then I'll click save. The first thing we will notice here is that we will need to notice few things. So if I refresh this, we're expected to see it submitted here, and we're expected to see the work guide appear, and then we can carry on. So let's refresh. Okay, now you can see it's submitted. It says assign. And if I scroll all the way to this side, it says assign, and I will see the assign. There is no comment, there's nothing. And then the work guide appeared here, right? Now I'll go ahead and say approve this record. I'll just say I have approved the record. Whatever, go ahead normally. Whatever you want. Okay. So now if I click finish, you will notice that this work guide will disappear. It says completed. And now we're expected to see update here. So I'm gonna refresh this. So I need to see that you can see the approval status says approved. And whatever I type there, it's appearing here, it's updating the fields, and a tax is created. Okay. And so so that's how it goes on. So if I go on to another opportunity and I want to like reject, so let me just go into all opportunities, and I'm just gonna go ahead and and go maybe this one, and then I'll just go. You can see it's nothing. If I go to detail, update this is more than 100K. And if I just click save, you will notice that if I click on that, and then I will now go ahead and the record is created. If I reject it, I say this record is rejected, and then I'll click finish. So this has also, if I refresh, it's going to update these fields. And then you will notice that the tax tool is going to be created. So we have a tax created. You can see updated, the flow working, approval status is rejected. And you can see it's created tax and said approval status rejected. If you open the tax, is actually whatever the subject is what we said it. And it can see it's related to this opportunity, and that's it. So now that's how it's working out. So a few things to look at. For example, you can see this one from this approval work item. You can click it and view it. Or Salesforce now added something here called approval. So you can see there's something called approvals. So if I go into the approval, you can view whatever that's happening, if there were some errors and all of that. So this is how it looks like. So if you can see here, we have quite a number of things here. You can see manage all pending approvals. So if there were any approval that is still pending, you can see them here. It says in progress, in progress. That is, these are the approvals that are still pending. And you can just go ahead and view them, okay? You can, for example, if I click on one of these, I will be able to see the approval, who submits the approval, the status is still pending, and so on and so forth, okay? So if I go back here, you can see more things. If I go home here, you can see manage all approval workflows. You can manage it here. You can see we have this approval process orchestration. So these are the approval one. This is the one we're using. You can be able to view it. You can see that it's saying that it's showing us all the orchestration runs. This is completed. This one is in progress, and manager approval. So because there are some that are still in progress, so you'll be able to see your orchestration runs here, and then you can see even versions if you have created. We just created one version of the orchestration flow. So if I go back home, you can see review my approval items. So these are the items. So you can go ahead and review them. You can review, reassign. For example, I can click review, and you can see here, I can be able to just reject. I will just say rejected from here and click confirm. That will be updated and everything will go on, okay? And then the last thing is manage approval submission. You can all see it here, see all the approval that has been submitted and stuff like that. So you can also do stuff. For example, you can see related and you can see what's happening. If I go back home here and go to pending approvals and open that, go to related, you'll be able to see the work item that we were seeing on the record. All of them will be showing here. And if I go back home as well, I click on all this, click on any of this, click on runs. We have looked at that. So all of that, you can manage it here. You can see it here, and you'll be able to manage your approval. So that's it about the orchestration. It's a very nice tool, handy to use. It has you can go into different directions, as you can see within the flow. You can go into another stage and configure it, and information can move around when the stage is completed and all of that. So thank you for listening. If you have any comment or any question, please drop it on a comment. I will respond to that. Thank you and bye-bye.